It's been 28 years, my sweet girl, and still I miss your laughter every single day. Did you hear that, my dear? Wait, lilacs. This feeling, it's like a jolt, but not of pain. It's sorrow, a deep, heavy longing, and a presence. Someone is here. I can hear them. Lonely. Wait. Forgotten. What do they want? I have to get out of here. But the path, it's gone. The cemetery, it's changing. The tombstones are moving, twisting into a maze. They're getting closer. Stay with us, they whisper. Don't leave. We are so alone. Who are you? What are you? I can see them now in the fog. Shapes. Translucent figures darting between the monuments. Some are weeping, small and hunched over. Others are huge, writhing in some silent agony. They're not attacking, just watching me with spectral eyes. I can hear children crying, old women sighing. They're whispering my name, Ilara's name. I need to run. I have to get away. But the paths just lead me deeper. Everywhere I turn, there are more of them. Closer now. Their ethereal hands are reaching for me. I can feel this spiritual coldness. It's draining my life away. The whispers have become a desperate wail, a storm of lost souls. And that music, a mournful organ, playing from everywhere and nowhere. That large shadow, it's reaching for me, not with anger, but with an overwhelming sadness, trying to pull me into its embrace. I can't run anymore. Elara, is that you? Your face, it's so clear. You're smiling, beckoning me. Join us, mother, they whisper, but it's your voice. Stay with us. We are lonely. They want me to become one of them, to share their endless vigil in this cold, lonely place, to be with you again. Come home, Mama. Yes, my love, I'm coming. I'm so tired. I just want to be with you. Martha's fingers hover just above the cold stone of Ilara's tomb. But something is different tonight. The fog, usually a lazy, drifting shroud, now moves with a chilling intention. It isn't just floating, it's watching. Behind a crooked angel statue, its stone wings broken and pointing towards the darkened sky, something peels itself away from the monument. It's a patch of darkness deeper than the night itself, a shadow without a source. It unfolds, standing upright, a long thin silhouette. Its limbs bend at angles that are utterly wrong, unnatural. Its head tilts, a slow, deliberate gesture as if it's studying her, measuring her. Martha blinks, her eyes stinging from the cold air, and in that split second it's closer, much closer. The whisper she'd felt from the ground is no longer just in the earth. It's right behind her, a cold breath on her neck. She spins around, her heart hammering against her ribs. There's nothing there, just more fog and rows of silent tombstones. But when she looks down, her own shadow on the frosted grass moves a fraction of a second too late, lagging behind her own movement, as if reluctant, or perhaps as if it's no longer entirely hers. The world tilts. The very layout of the graveyard begins to rearrange itself around her. Tombstones, heavy and ancient, slide silently across the ground, their movement smooth and horrifyingly quiet. They seal the exits, closing off the path she came from. The path to the gate is gone, replaced by a maze of stone and forgotten names, and the shadows multiply. They aren't just one entity anymore. They are a legion. They cling to the bases of graves, pooling like black ink. They wrap themselves around the skeletal trunks of dead, leafless trees. They weave themselves into the very fabric of the fog, making it a living, breathing entity. They don't attack, not directly. They herd her. They guide her. Every time Martha thinks she's found a way out, choosing a path that seems to lead toward the cemetery walls, a shadow detaches itself from a nearby surface. It steps forward, stretching impossibly tall, a featureless barrier of night blocking her way. Its surface ripples like dark water disturbed, as if something is pressing against it from the inside, desperate to get out. And from these rippling forms, whispers leak into the air. But it's not Ilara's voice anymore. It's a chorus of other voices, fragmented and broken. And the voices of other mourners who have walked these paths. Fragments of shattered prayers. Final, desperate apologies that were never heard. the collected sorrow of this place. In that chilling moment, Martha understands. These shadows aren't monsters in the traditional sense. They are what grief leaves behind. They are the echoes of pain, given form, and a terrible patient will. The labyrinth of graves finally funnels her into a circular clearing, the dead center of the cemetery. At its heart stands an old, chained well, its iron links thick with rust. Here, the shadows gather. They flow from behind every monument, every tree, pouring into the clearing and merging. Dozens of them collapse into one another, fusing into 3 towering figures. Their shapes stabilize, becoming vaguely human, but grotesquely so. And then faces begin to emerge from the blackness. They aren't fully formed, more like distorted reflections seen in black, rippling glass. One of the shadows wears Ilara's face, but it's all wrong. The eyes are hollow, empty voids. The smile is a frozen, painful grimace, and its mouth opens far too wide, a silent scream etched into its shadowy features. Another shadow takes on Martha's own face, but younger. From a time before this loss, this shadow self stares at her, its expression one of cold accusation. The third, and tallest, has no face at all. It is a perfect, smooth void. And it speaks. Its voice is a layered, discordant sound, like many throats speaking at once, a collective of sorrow. She is not lost, the faceless shadow hisses, the words crawling over each other. She is multiplied. As it speaks, the 3 figures stretch their long shadow arms toward the chained well. The heavy chains begin to vibrate, a low, resonant hum that seems to shake the very ground. Every shadow pulls, but they pull in different directions, a terrible, silent tug of war. The entire labyrinth seems to scream, a high-pitched, tearing sound that isn't sound at all, but a pressure in Martha's skull, a psychic shriek of a place being torn apart by its own accumulated grief. She has to move. Martha turns and runs, plunging back into the shifting maze, but the shadows are no longer stationary guards. They detach from the ground, from the walls of the mausoleums, and slide along the stone surfaces, keeping pace with her effortlessly, without a single sound. They are a silent, relentless tide of darkness. Whenever she dares to slow down, to catch her breath, a shadow seeps into her peripheral vision, its formless face just inches from her own. But if she musters the courage to look directly at it, it freezes, becoming just a patch of ordinary darkness again. But the moment her gaze shifts, another one moves, closer, this time. They hunt with an agonizing patience, a game of cat and mouse where the mouse is already exhausted. The corridors of stone and earth narrow, forcing her to turn sideways to squeeze through. As she does, a shadow presses itself flat against her chest, pinning her against the cold, damp stone. It's weightless, but immensely strong. It smells of freshly turned soil and extinguished candles, the scent of a funeral. It whispers directly into her ear, the layered voices a sibilant rush of cold air. "Stay, you are almost hollow enough." A raw scream tears from her throat, and she shoves herself forward, breaking free from its grasp. She doesn't look back. She just runs, her lungs burning, the only sound the frantic pounding of her own heart and the rasp of her breath. She doesn't know how, but she finds it. The cemetery gate. It stands ahead, a dark archway promising the safety of the sleeping world beyond. And there, standing just before it, is Ilara. Her form is faint, shimmering, just as it was before. But now, Martha sees the truth. Ilara's shadow is wrong. It doesn't fall behind her. It stretches backward, a long, dark tether connecting her to the labyrinth, to the well, to every other shadow in this place. They are roots, anchoring the dead to their sorrow. Martha finally understands. The shadows aren't just manifestations of grief. They are anchors. They keep the dead tethered to this place, but they also keep the living from leaving it unchanged. They demand a piece of you. She remembers the shawl, the one she brought for Ilara. With trembling hands, she pulls it from her bag. As she approaches the shimmering form, she doesn't try to wrap it around Ilara's shoulders. She wraps it tightly around her wrist. The moment the fabric touches Ilara's form, the shadows recoil violently. A collective, silent scream erupts from the darkness. Some of the shadows dissolve into nothing, their forms disintegrating like smoke. Others shriek, contorting in agony. The connection is broken. But one shadow, the one that wore Martha's own accusing face, lunges. It doesn't try to stop her. It latches onto her back, a cold, heavy weight. She stumbles, dragging it with her as she throws herself through the cemetery gate, collapsing onto the dew-soaked grass outside. Morning comes. The sun rises, casting long, normal shadows across the quiet street. The cemetery looks peaceful, ordinary. The fog is gone. But as Martha picks herself up, she feels a lingering coldness. She looks down. Her shadow is no longer shaped quite like her. It stands slightly taller, its edges sharper. And sometimes, when she stops walking for a moment, her shadow keeps going for just a second more before snapping back into place. As she turns to leave for good, a final, faint whisper rises on the morning breeze, seeming to come from beneath Ilara's grave, far inside. The Labyrinth remembers you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more chills. The old woman, Martha, pulled her shawl tighter, a thin shield against a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. She stood alone in the heart of the graveyard, a sea of granite and silence. She called out for help, a single, desperate word, but her voice didn't echo. It felt absorbed, and then it returned. Not as an echo, but as a distorted whisper, slithering back to her from an entirely different direction. The cemetery wasn't just quiet, it was listening. She started walking, her steps unsteady on the uneven ground. That's when she noticed the tombstones. They were changing. Names she thought she knew rearranged themselves into unfamiliar patterns. Dates shifted, years flickering like faulty lights. Some stones were freshly carved but blank, waiting, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. A sudden sound snapped behind her, the unmistakable drag of bare feet through dirt. She spun around. Nothing, just the rows of silent sentinels and the creeping fog. But when she looked down, her heart seized. Small, bare footprints were appearing in the soil, right behind her own, matching her pace, step for step. Panic flared. She quickened her pace, her worn shoes crunching on the gravel path. The phantom footsteps behind her sped up too, a dreadful, dragging rhythm in the gloom. She ran, her breath coming in ragged bursts, and then she saw it, impossibly close, a stone she had just passed moments ago. It bore her daughter's name, Ilara, but this time the dates were wrong. 1965, and then 4 question marks. The stone itself seemed to weep, dark water bleeding from the carved letters. A horrifying realization dawned on her. The graveyard wasn't looping, it was descending. Each lap was a step down, deeper into something that wore the skin of her sorrow. She stumbled forward, breaking through a line of skeletal trees, and found herself in a circular clearing. At its center stood an old stone well, its mouth sealed with heavy, rusted iron chains. These weren't for drawing water. Scratched deep into the metal were symbols, not of ritual, but of raw, desperate warning. The whisper she'd heard before was back, but now it was clear, horribly clear. It was Ilara's voice, but slower, flattened, as if it were being spoken through a mouthful of soil. "You stayed so long alone, Mama." A sob tore from Martha's throat. She stumbled toward the well, her hand outstretched, reaching for the chains. A part of her mind, the rational, sunlit part, screamed at her to stop, to run, to leave this place. But her grief was a tidal wave, and it answered louder, drowning everything else. Her trembling fingers found a loose link. She pulled. The ground beneath her trembled violently. A scent rose from the well's dark mouth, the cloying smell of lilacs, so sweet it was rotten. And then came the voices, not just one. Many, dozens of whispers, all sighing different names. She finally understood. Ilara wasn't alone down there. Ilara wasn't even there at all. She had opened something ancient, something that had simply learned her daughter's voice. The labyrinth of stone and sorrow shifted violently around her. Gravestones toppled like dominoes, slamming into the ground and rearranging themselves into new, impossible configurations. The fog thickened, and within it, figures began to appear. Silhouettes of mourners, frozen in their grief, their mouths open in silent, eternal screams. Martha reached out and touched one, a woman clutching her chest. The figure dissolved at her touch, crumbling into a pile of cold ash. The whisper grew impatient, no longer trying to soothe, but to command. "You came back. That means you're ready." "Ready for what?" The answer crawled from the well. It wasn't a body. It was a shape made of absence. The outline of a young girl, but hollow, as if the world behind it had been erased. Inside this void, memories flickered like a broken film projector. Elara, laughing on a swing as a child. Elara, a teenager, slamming her bedroom door in anger. Elara's funeral, but seen from an impossible angle, from beneath the coffin lid, looking up. The entity, this hollow thing wearing her daughter's shape, reached for Martha. She turned and ran. The labyrinth collapsed inward, the falling stones forming narrow, constricting passages that forced her forward. Hands, cold and smooth as marble, pushed through the stone walls. They weren't grabbing her, but guiding her, steering her deeper into the maze. The corridors themselves whispered instructions. Wrong turns were punished with the sound of agonizing screams, but correct turns were rewarded with Elara's voice, growing gentler, closer, more loving, a poisonously perfect imitation. Suddenly she burst through a final, narrow passage and saw it. An open gate, the cemetery entrance, freedom. The morning light was just beginning to touch the sky beyond, but standing before the gate, blocking her path, was Elara, fully formed, solid, pale, with eyes that were too reflective, like polished glass. Her smile was delayed by just half a second, an unsettling glitch in reality. She spoke, but her lips didn't move. "You didn't come to save me," the voice echoed in Martha's mind. "You came to stay." The ground behind Martha split open with a sickening crack. The well rose from the earth, the chains snapping like old bones. The truth hit her with the force of a physical blow. This place, this labyrinth, it wasn't a prison for the dead. It was a trap for the living. It was designed to keep those who listened to the whisper, those who gave in to their grief, from ever leaving. The entity took a step toward her. In a last, desperate act, Martha tore the woolen shawl from her shoulders. She lunged forward, wrapping it around the entity's wrist. For the first time, the thing recoiled. A flicker of genuine pain crossed its face. The shawl, soaked with decades of Martha's tears, her loneliness, her pure and undiluted grief, burned its mimicked flesh like acid. Martha didn't hesitate. She ran. She scrambled through the gate as a shriek of pure rage and agony erupted from the labyrinth behind her, the sound of a predator that had just lost its prey. Morning light. The cemetery was normal again, quiet, peaceful. Visitors milled about, laying flowers, tending to graves, completely unaware of Martha, collapsed by her daughter's headstone. There was no fog. There were no whispers. The tombstone was exactly as she remembered it, except for one small detail. Beneath Elara's name, a new line had been carved into the stone overnight. It read, "She is not alone." Martha pushed herself to her feet. A faint, knowing smile touched her lips. It wasn't a smile of relief, it was a smile of understanding. As she turned and walked away from the grave, her shadow seemed to linger for just a moment too long, stretching back toward the earth, and from deep beneath the soil, a final, faint whisper reached her ears, a patient promise. "Next time, don't hesitate.